Hey everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
Pretty good, my friend. And we're going to jump into this one really quickly because that's what all the YouTube experts say you should do. We're not going to bury the lead at all. We're here to be controversial. Not really. We're talking about something that shouldn't be controversial.
Hmm.
That's essentially movies that people say couldn't be made today. And I think we're going to have a look at whether or not they would be made today or should be made today. Because I think they're very, very different things. Very, very different things. Because yes, there's lots of stuff that wouldn't be made for all sorts of reasons. So we're going to have a little poke at some of those reasons. And maybe if they're complete crap, then we'll fall down on the side of it wouldn't be made, but maybe it should.
Yeah, it's a kind of interesting one. So, yeah, I can't wait for this. I was telling which is Patrick that I'm excited for this one. Either this is our last show or this is going to be a very good show.
Well, look, somebody said that you'll get more viewers if you're controversial or negative, and we didn't want to be negative, so this is our tame attempt at controversial. So, Paul, let's rock and roll into it. As people join us in the chat, you can all say hi and what your gripe is with what we're talking about. Feel free to fight amongst yourselves as well as us. Paul, what's up on screen right now is see no evil, hear no evil. It's not a great example of something that couldn't be made, but
Mhm.
probably wouldn't. And it's for
Yeah,
the dumbest of reasons, I think.
I think this is a kind of I guess this is to ease everybody into it.
Yeah.
Here, See No Evil, Hear No Evil is essentially a movie with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder, and essentially they play a person who has which is sight impairment and also a person who has hearing impairment.
Mm-hmm.
They're deaf and blind. Um, which was the reason behind. So this was kind of my choice to kind of put forward, and the reason I think that this would have a difficulty being made today is because Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor have their hearing and their sight. And we've known from the past with movies such as like the Upside and a few others that able-bodied people portraying disabled or people with disabilities um, isn't being really kind of it isn't a great thing because it's just not it's not showing people or giving actors who have those disabilities maybe a chance. Now we're getting better at it,
And
but
yeah, and Paul, I think we've been clear in the past. I don't know how many times I've said, and actually one of my big predictions for this year was that there would be more movies specifically featuring people either deaf or blind as specific disabilities, let's say. But weirdly, that idea that you have to be something to play something, it comes up an awful lot. And I don't think that people really feel that. As in, I think there's usually something else that's annoyed them a little bit or makes them uncomfortable, and then they jump to that. Because
mhm.
people act in roles that they are not all the time. That's the nature of acting. Now, as much as I would love for every actor out there that has any sort of is affected in any way by a disability or an impairment, for them to have roles, they also have to be good actors. So it's about the percentage of good actors and then the percentage of those good actors that can become big names. Because let's face it, there are brilliant actors we're never going to hear of in all walks of life because they never get to become big names. And you
Mhm.
don't get to make big movies with small names very often.
Yeah, like that's it. That's the thing. As in, if you start needing to people, if you start needing especially actors to be close to the character in which they're playing, like you're not going to get people who are going to be like 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 Hannibal Lecter, um, you know, you know, no one is like no actor is essentially a cannibal, so you can't have like so that's the
Do we know
I know
that
a
for
lot of people are
sure?
having the argument.
My brain just went through three and I
That's
was like, I
true.
think those three probably.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if Anthony Hopkins is not a cannibal, but I know that the argument is that like you should have people who are closer to the character, especially with a specific kind of disability. So like I do get uh, and I do, and it's a kind of force of it's a step away from whitewashing characters or that kind of level of kind of thing. But I it's with See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Richard Pryor and Gene Wild, like they push the envelope a lot with their
Yeah.
comedy
Yeah.
back in the day, that I think that they wouldn't be they wouldn't have had they wouldn't have. I don't think this would. I think if they was pitched nowadays to a board of like or a studio or something, I definitely think they'll be just like, oh, like, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
it's a bit of a delicate situation with that kind of thing, and we don't want to, especially if Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor are just like, we have to play the characters, like,
And the
'cause
first,
that's our criteria.
yeah, the first thing that somebody around that boardroom's going to say is, "But are we laughing at these people?" Yes, it's a comedy, but the next question has to be, are we laughing at them for the right reasons? And if you've watched See No Evil, Hear No Evil, you are. These are not people who are made out to be weak, inferior, stupid, or anything in any way. They are the heroes of the piece, and it's. I think there's an element to this, Paul, where comedy is something that makes people feel uncomfortable when it comes to something like this. People are always worried, are we laughing at them? And that then can jump over to what the point you already raised, where people then start over scrutinizing its acceptableness and start looking for other reasons to be offended. And quite often be offended on someone else's behalf. I'm always a big fan of making sure that your outrage is your own, and not. Again, this is not going to get political, folks. I'm your liberal lefty softy here, so I'm the guy that should be going, oh, this is all terrible. Well, I'm not. This is a comedy film. It's a piece of art with two amazing actors, and I saw in the comments, Paul, the pop culture, hey, yeah, buddy, good to have you here. I said, could you make any of their movies today? Anything that had the two of them would probably face a challenge, because they were all fairly challenging in the respect of what we're talking about. So, yeah, I think that's it's a tough one.
Like, because the majority of the comedy here is wordplay kind of things. It's wordplay
situational
and
comedy and
observational.
wordplay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like it's like it's like, I say a few of it is akin to Who's On Next, and like a lot of it would be kind of, I know there is more kind of also slapstick stuff, but it is more kind of like Who's On Next kind of level of kind of, misinterpretation
yeah,
and
yeah,
misunderstanding between the two, because and it's funny in the way that if you just put someone with earplugs and someone with blinders on and put them in a maze or something like that, them trying to communicate with each other would be quite funny. And but which is it's a more kind of, yeah, it's a more intellectual kind of, like, comedy kind of element of wordplay and that, whereas I think people would like ultimately assume that they are laughing at the disability rather than the whole context of what's going on for these two characters.
and let's face it, if you're going to have a problem with this movie, it should be because there's a younger Kevin Spacey in it, and he looks creepy with all his own hair. So, well, I think we've thrown the softball around enough. Now we've really got to get into it. Come on, this is the stuff that's going to make us internet famous and get us all the views of people trying to throw us off. And it's weird. Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder are going to feature again in this list right now. I think you all guessed it. Like,
Yeah.
Blazing Saddles was going to come up at some stage, wasn't it?
Of course.
Of course.
But it could not. Like, it was no way that this was in any way going to be, like, held back.
If you consider people's view on Blazing Saddles today, it is the one thing that people talk about, going, oh, you couldn't make that today. And some of the people who say that are absolute horrible people, because the reason they're saying it is not the reason we're talking about it now. They're saying it because, oh, the world's gone mad and I want to be able to run around saying the N-word, which I don't. I very much don't. But in the context of this movie and what Mel Brooks, everybody should also remember, Mel Brooks will say, oh, Mel Brooks, what right has he? He's an amazing filmmaker when it comes to lampooning, spoofing, and satire. And he, along with Richard Pryor as a co-writer, came up with one of the great roles that Cleavon Little played so brilliantly, alongside the aforementioned Gene Wilder. Like, I think, as far as just Mount Rushmore of comedy movies, this stands a chance of being up there. Yet, people are scared to say they like it.
Yeah, it's a particular scene. It's that particular scene where the sheriff arrives in town, and the folk kind of go off on him, because, like, it is technically a period piece, and it is technically like it is a comedy once again, which we've already stated that comedies seem to get these things a little bit more harsher. And this one does not shy away from what it's doing. Like it literally holds your face up in front of the screen, and it's just like, no, you watch this, you can't look away, kind of thing, which is a great point. So yeah, I definitely think this would be a lot of uncomfortable people in a boardroom also once again when they pitch it.
Yeah,
Which is sad because that scene is so much more intellectual than people give it credit for.
it's true,
You know?
and as far as comedy writing goes, an impressive feat. But I'm going to take a moment and I distance, Paul, from anything I say that upsets anybody. If we say something, we'll have to own it. But I'm going to go ahead and say something. I saw somebody wrote this down, and I thought it was the most incredibly awful thing to ever write down. They said, "Words matter, intent doesn't," which I thought was the scariest thought on the planet. Because yes, words do matter, but intent also has to matter. Context also has to matter. It shouldn't be one or the other, and there should be no hierarchy where it's a case of, well, only the word. If you say any word in any context, it won't matter. We're going to boil it back down to the word. That is a corrosive thought. I think it's a very corrosive thought, in fact. I worry about the future based just on having read that sentence. It's never left me. But this is one of those times where, yeah, unbelievably, like that, it's not even just the N-word's repeated use. Like this whole movie it's full of things that you wouldn't fly today. Let's put it that way. But specifically to that, in the context and in the intent, Paul, I'm just going to play a little clip real quick. Let me know if it all works out for you.
You've got to remember that these are just simple farmers. These are people of the land. The common clay of the New West. You know. Morons.
That clip where essentially it sums up the movie for me. At no point is anybody laughing at the wrong person. This is a movie full of morons that are to be laughed at. And that's the genius of this. It's not holding up racism. It's holding racism up to the flames, to the fire, around a farty campfire, if you will, to say, you're morons. The fact that this exists and these ideals and ideas exist is moronic. So, for me, I know plenty of people who've watched this from all walks of life and have thought nothing of it. But now, if I bring it up in casual conversation, there will always be somebody who goes, couldn't make it today, though.
Yep.
Wouldn't be made today. Couldn't be made today?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Shouldn't be made today? Yeah, that's where you lose me, Wouldn't, couldn't, but I don't think shouldn't. I think this is the sort of thing, if it's done this artfully, then people should be able to actually take it on and learn from it and enjoy it for what it is, which has a target on the right backs, from my point of view.
Yeah. Like, the whole scene is essentially how fickle people are, like, with that belief. Like, the whole idea is that they turn it around from him. Like, they're the entire mob is against that guy, against the sheriff, because of his, like, skin color. And the second that the crowd turns, like, and the sheriff turns them, like, by tricking them. And it shows three levels. It shows their ignorance for being racist, the ignorance that they are easily tricked, and the second is that they were going to lynch him, and now they're just like, oh my god, please save him, And it just shows how fickle, like, some of these people, so idiotic, and how fickle these people can be, and how flip-floppy their ideals can change depending on the wave of the crowd.
Exactly.
So, like, it's a big, huge, like, mirror for certain people.
Which is...
And I definitely think it should be made. I think it should be made.
Yeah.
I'm happy that it exists.
Yeah.
Would it?
Yeah. I don't think there's somebody going to be putting up money to do this right now, because they would court too much controversy to ever make their money back. But it is funny because, as you artfully point out there, these are people who follow the crowd, don't really have their own independent thought, are limited thinking, like all of those things. And yet, in the real world today, you find an awful lot of people who act like this use phrases like sheeple, and you kind of think, oh, that's a bad sign. Anyway, so for my money, Blazing Saddles being the archetype of why we have this episode at all, I'm sure there are people out there who are going to say, I think it's disgusting that you're even talking about this movie. And to you, I would say, please, let's have that conversation. Have it in the comments down below. Have it in any forum you want. I'd be open to doing a follow-up video with, people's thoughts and comments, because genuinely, anybody's thought on this, that's right. It's right for them. It just doesn't have to be right for me or for anybody else. It's that whole thing of going to a stand-up comedy show. If you can laugh at 19 out of 20 jokes, but the one joke that you take personally, it affects you, you can't laugh at yourself in that, I'm not even going to judge you. I'm just going to say you get to leave the comedy show. You don't get to tell everybody else they should have left too. That's all. So any feelings that anybody has for or against, please know there's no judgment here. It's all your own show, folks. It's all your own business. Paul?
Do let us know that if you do have an issue with the with the movie, and you do want to comment on the fact that you don't think it should be made today or anything. Also, let us know if you've seen it.
I really hope that
that's not
clearly a disqualifying factor for people, but you're right. It's weird that has to be said.
It's just that, I would, if you haven't and you've only seen certain clips and stuff like that, my recommendation is before you comment, watch the whole movie. And it's not in any way kind of disqualifying your feelings of seeing that one scene or anything like that. It's just you would want to be educated in the whole movie before you say anything on it. Because I wouldn't want to be just but in this scene that's immediately after the scene that you've seen a clip of, kind of thing. So
context does matter. So sometimes you have to see things in context. Paul, it's as though you're giving me perfect segues, because the next movie up that we really have to talk about is Life of Brian. And it famously, for those of us living in this part of the world, caused a huge stir, and one of the most iconic interviews on TV of all time, where two of the members of Python were being interviewed while the Archbishop of Canterbury and another religious leader were there saying, this is awful, awful. And they had not seen the movie. And when that was brought up to them, they were like, you don't have to, we know enough. So, no, you do have to really authoritatively say that you hate something and think it's terrible. You have to know what it is for sure. It was the same thing with Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit came out 2 years ago. It's an amazing film, by the way. Anybody who hasn't seen it should see it. A lot of people said it's not okay. It looks like it's making, fun of Hitler, but in a way that, Hitler's not a bad guy. Well, watch it in context before you make silly statements or silly judgments like that. Life of Brian it's the perfect segue, Paul. Anybody that wants to comment on any of this, watch the whole movie first, please. And if you can't bring yourself to watch it, say why your opinion should still be fully heard. Paul, Life of Brian is a tough one for me, because I understand that people who are sensitive to the idea of, is this sending up my religion or all religions, or the idea of having faith? In part it just is, but it's not its actual entire thrust. It's not the entire point of the movie, and I don't think it's cynically trying to pull religion down or pull faith apart. If anything, I think it's having a lighthearted look. It's absurdist satire in a Monty Python way. Jesus is in the movie and very much is not Brian. And the simple comedic premise of, well, what about a bit of mistaken identity, or what about a bit of, similar things happening? Let's see where there's comedy there. It does not hang around the topic of religion for very long, in fact. If people watch the movie, you have to look very hard to find the parallels.
Well, that's the big thing about this film. It's as you said, the story of Jesus Christ is in this movie. It is in the background. It is in no way tampered with. It's essentially that this is just a parallel thing that was going on at the time, and it's essentially the film although it makes some jokes towards religion, it is in no way like it isn't in no way saying that, like, Jesus Christ didn't happen. As I said, it's in the background. It's just another parallel story. This is more making a joke about at that point in time. People maybe have more. There may have been more people who are malleable to this kind of thing, but like that's not to say that religion is wrong or anything like that. It's just making a joke about a mistaken identity, as you said.
If it's actually aimed at anybody, it's the Romans. So
Yeah.
there you go. All my friends in Italy and specifically in Rome should be outraged at Life of Brian. The great example for me of why this isn't actually aimed at religion is the Sermon on the Mount scene, where that lady going, not being able to hear, the idea of just that physical idea that people would not all have been able to hear clearly, and it's that great. Blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth, or whatever. And someone goes, "Oh, the meek, that's nice." That's a human moment. That's all that is. And later on, when everybody's we're all individuals, it's a wordplay joke, but also it's not laughing at religion or the idea of people following faith. It's the idea of people following anything blindly. And that's why politics comes into this later on. And it's why I specifically chose a picture of the People's Front of Judea. Because they're not the Judeans' People Front. No, they're the People's Front of Judea, because we wouldn't have the Judeans' People's Front up there. And it goes out of its way to be good at what it's doing. I understand that some people may be offended by its very existence. I get that. Mm-hmm. And again, that's why I say I bear no ill will. I don't think you're stupid. I don't think anything else. There is no judgment. It's just maybe watch it again and see if you can enjoy it through the lens of not assuming that it's negatively aimed anywhere. You might find yourself laughing more than you think.
That's probably the best way to do it. Like, watch it with an open mind of like that blind faith, and not questioning things is not always the right way of doing things.
And it's not synonymous with religion.
Well, yeah, no, as you said, policy. I think my thing of having a parallel of people blindly following something. I think you articulated the point that I was trying to get to very well. Cause yeah, it's essentially just an idea of just that Brian has ends up in a situation in which an awkward situation in which he is believed to be of another religion, another savior kind of thing, and it isn't and he's particularly saying, no, don't do it. I'm not anything, don't blindly follow me. And it's essentially just the story of essentially that. It's and then obviously it has British humor in it. And as you said, what did he say? Oh, the meek will inherit it. Oh, that's lovely. That's nice that they get something in it. Yeah. It's very British kind of comedy.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's very Monty Python comedy as well. That it's trying to. The only point it's trying to make is just open your eyes, and it's not saying that with following Jesus Christ and God and those religions is wrong. It's just maybe question some things, kind of thing. And we're not in any way telling you religion is wrong or anything like that.
God, no.
So but it is open. Watch it with an open mind of just when you believe in something so strongly that you've searched yourself to watch it or to believe it, rather than these people who have essentially just jumped in feet first and not questioned anything.
I know people of very strong faith, very, very strong faith, who love this movie. And the reason is that they watch it as it is, not assuming that it's in some way a negative attack. But Paul, we missed saying this in Blazing Saddles. If you're not able to watch that movie and watch how it ends with the fourth wall break of into the backlots of Hollywood, and not understanding that it's a commentary on society and Hollywood as much as anything else. And remember, Blazing Saddles means a different thing to us now than the generation that watched it when it came out first, because Westerns were the big genre. And Mel Brooks has told the story plenty of times of people really, giving him the stink eye in the elevators, in the corridors of power in Hollywood, because it diminished, it lightened the Western, and that was a big moneymaker at the time. Life of Brian has an alien in it. People forget that there's a trippy moment where Brian Graham Chapman ends up in a spaceship with a like very Terry Gilliam style alien. So come on, folks, enjoy it for what it is. Look on the bright side of life. Try and see past the veneer that might bother you.
That's the biggest lesson that this has, which is
Yeah.
look on the bright side of life. I do like the trivia about that alien thing, just to go sideways.
Please do.
Which is that they had the idea for a part. So they ended with Brian running up some stairs. They had a whole idea for a part, and then they went home. And then they came back the next day, not writing any of it down, and they've essentially forgot what it was. So they kind of just went,
Maybe an alien gets him. There you go. You look, people are Deus Exing themselves in the middle of films. The comments now, Paul, because I gotta check in with the comments. Pop says, I remember my church band Life of Brian, which made all the kids go out and rent. There you go. Banning something, banning almost always backfires. You're right.
Yeah.
Prohibition is proven not to work. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of movies that I will never see on principle alone, and that's me not picking on them, saying I haven't seen it and therefore I judge. There are things that I just kind of know, okay, I probably won't enjoy that. If somebody says, no, you really, really will, I will then watch it and possibly report back to them, you were right or you were wrong. So I think people can make their own choice, but it's where people go after something that they then never intend to watch is a bit of an issue. Pop also says, and that's Pop Culture 33, everybody. Go check out that channel. I would use this movie in any sort of Bible class and Blazing Saddles in my history class. So I'm for all this type of humor and find it important. Why do we even do this when we have somebody who can sum things up as well as that? Thank you very much, Pop Culture. That's what we've been trying to say. So fair play. Thank you.
I do like, I have said this before, satire movies like Blazing Saddles are important to history because what they make fun of gives us a glimpse of what people were like. It essentially shows us how far we've come.
There you go.
Like if we can't, like,
and at the time it shows people how far they have to go, because if you don't get poked in the eye now and again, you mightn't realize what you're like.
But I stubbed my toe and I screamed at the step. Like it was a step, like as if the step had moved in front of me and decided to, hurt me. Which now I can just laugh at it. I was literally having a conversation with a step, and it just makes me laugh at it. And this is similar. This is just human history stubbing their toe and moving on. Now it's a lot more violent. I don't want to belittle any of that kind of stuff. Though the words were very colourful towards that step as well.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But it's just if you can't look back and learn the lessons of the past through our entire media and stuff, then you don't have a future.
And if you can't have a mirror held up at the time, you don't understand the purpose of art sometimes either. So Paul, I think we have enough time to get one more in before our ad. What do you think?
I do think so.
Then I'm going to we'll save the best for last, so to speak, or the most controversial for last. Team America, everybody. F yeah, to give their song a mention. This one's interesting because this is from the makers of South Park. And if you've never seen South Park, then I don't know how to explain to you what their kind of ethos is as far as being challenging, to put it politely, is. They're pretty intense on the we're afraid of nothing, we're going to go after everything. As misguided as that has been in some cases, in my opinion, I don't think they get it right all the time, that's for sure. But when they made this movie, they made it with marionettes, essentially. So they puppeteered this. And much like South Park, there are things that a cartoon character or a CGI character or a marionette can say or do that you will never, ever be able to get away if it was a full live action human doing it. I think Team America World Police is a class in that. If you're going to set one out in college and teach people, here is the only way you get away with some things. You have to have a puppet right now.
Yep, I agree there. Yeah, it's just a way of getting around it. It's just like, it's not humans. It's for some reason it's through another medium kind of thing and another anthropomorphized item that you can get away with a lot more kind of things. Now, would this be made today? I think with the level of the stereotypes and the things that they do with it, I don't know. I don't know if a producer would be like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea to kind of like, let's piss off a bunch of. Now we understand why it came about. The country was very hurt. This was a good way to kind of focus their anger and into maybe humor at the time, but nowadays I definitely think that you wouldn't get away with this kind of thing.
Yeah, it is wall to wall shock and awe when it comes to lots of things, including racial stereotypes, stereotypes in general. But there's the thing. Here's the reason I don't have an issue with it, and I know people go, well, of course you don't have an issue with it because it's not aimed at you. Well, I don't look exactly like Matt Damon, but some of it's aimed a little bit at me. It was aimed at my liberal thinking of the time of, oh yeah, do America think they're the world police? And me being the biggest, Yankophile, as people would put it, here in the world. I love America. I'm very, very, very proud to call myself, an American citizen. So I like the idea that I would defend America. My issue here is I don't know if I'd want this made today because it was of the time. So as it is, but how can I describe another situation where it would be appropriate to make something like this? Because I think there are other situations where it's appropriate to make something like this. I just can't think of a delicate enough example. So do I think that this could ever be made today as it was? Not a chance. No way. But like you say, it's a different time. And, the object of ridicule here, this was Matt and Trey from South Park really sending up the idea of, policing the world, the whole end of the machismo, the bravado. But not just that, then going to the other side and calling out Hollywood elites as being whatever way you want to put it. And then, let's face it, just the weirdness that was Kim Jong-il, or Kim Jong-un. No, Kim Jong-il.
Kim Jong-il.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, forgot which one was which there. And again, accents, stereotypes, all that kind of stuff. It's designed to break people's perception of what's allowed right now. And for that, I kind of salute it.
Yeah, like that's what I was getting at when I was saying that it's a different time built around a moment in which America was a different place, and it was essentially focusing anger to be humorous, kind of thing, and just put it up. Yeah, it's to show the arrogance kind of thing. But we should go to our ad break.
Okay.
And maybe come back onto this.
We will see you on the other side with our final and most shocking movie yet. Dun, dun, dun.
You gotta remember that these...
I accidentally clicked the wrong thing there. So we're back. I hope you enjoyed that little ad break. To finish on Team America, at no point am I defending the idea of racial stereotypes. No. Also, I would love, and pop culture, you're US based, so if you have any thoughts on how this is viewed in America, because I know this is viewed in various different ways in various different countries. Somewhere like Ireland sees this as, hey, that's a comedy with puppets from the people who make a shocking animated show. And they do not think of it past that. But at no point was it Team Ireland World Police. So I'd love to know how this is looked at by people living there right now. And Paul, do you think that we can actually get out of this next one safely? Because this is the one that I've been kind of most worried about bringing up, and here's why. I've never seen all of it in one sitting. I've never seen all of Tropic Thunder in one sitting, and it's not because I had any issue with it. It's just one of those films, you know, you keep trying to watch and you get interrupted, and then you come back to it, and then you're interrupted, and whatever, and then years pass, and etc. etc. I just I don't think we have to say why this was controversial, or do we?
We might have to point out the particular controversy that we are talking about, because I believe that there is a slur for there's a derogatory term towards the
there's all sorts of derogatory terms, more than likely. I mightn't even pick up on them all, which is really weird, folks. By the way, people always assume that naivety is put on by us type, but because we're based here, we won't have heard all the slurs and epithets that other countries might use. So somebody will go, "Oh, did you not know that what they just said was wrong?" Sometimes it'll be like, "No, we don't know everybody's slang, unfortunately." And then you find out, what they just said was really offensive.
And also, we we want to keep up with the current terms and stuff like that are safe, but sometimes you just don't know which ones are safe and stuff like that. So
exactly.
But yeah, so the particular one that we are talking about is Robbie Downey Jr.'s character. It's Sinclair, isn't it? No, it's Kirk Lazarus. That's what his name is. God's sake.
Is it? And here's the thing, and I'm sorry, Russell Crowe, but I felt like at the time it was just Russell Crowe mixed with every other method actor. You know, it was real. It was sending up a whole category of actor, but also a whole category of cinema, which all the other characters in this were doing. That's why those great trailers that play at the start show you set up these people with the kind of the Oscar bait movies and all the rest. And obviously there's the use of the R word in this about, you know, somebody portraying things, and that was, you know, nod to Forrest Gump, etc., etc. Like it's got plenty out there, or plenty in there that'll bother people, but particularly Robert Downey Jr.'s blackface, which, can we also just point out that people have forgotten was nominated for an Oscar?
Yeah.
And is it bad that it was? Because for me, they nominated a performance. They didn't rubber stamp the idea of doing something. Now, am I saying that this is okay or not okay? I'm not going to be able to make that decision for anybody else. Am I going to get round to watching Tropic Thunder from start to finish at some stage? Probably very soon. Yes. Because it's not going to stop me watching the movie. It really isn't. No,
so yeah. I don't think so as you say, it was done for Best Supporting Actor, nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I do believe that the performance probably does require kind of that level, because it is a satire of those method actors who go too far in a role, and also are so big that which goes it makes so big or they are so big that they are able to take on any role, and they'll just be like, yeah, I'll do a method kind of thing. And this is the extremist version of that kind of level of kind of method acting, which is because, like, I think in one of the opening trailers, he has he like gets like blonde hair and like, you know, he gets surgery first to become that person, and then he gets surgery again to like pigment, like his pigmentation kind of thing, the blackface kind of like surgery kind of thing. And it's just like, as they go through what he did, it's so ridiculous.
And that's, we're back to it again. Who are you laughing at this point?
Yeah,
you know, so that's the intent matters there. The intent is not malicious, as far as I can tell, or as far as I've seen. The intent is actually the exact opposite, much like the other movies that we've talked about on this list, you know, Life of Brian, etc. The intent is to laugh at the situations and the people that deserve to be laughed at, and people who take things too far and are completely insensitive and are completely ridiculous. It's intent matters, I have to say, in this case.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does, because the intent of this is to laugh at method actors who go too far.
Yeah, and,
You know?
and a bunch of other layers of things. And the idea of, because again, I'm only remembering parts of the movie, there are interactions where it's like the adoption of culture and the co-option of culture, which absolutely happens and was happening at the time in very acceptable ways. You know, everybody thinks that they were born, and I hate the phrase woke, but everybody thinks they were born knowing what they know today. Sometimes go back 5 years in your life and think, what were you okay with and what did you not pass, bat an eyelid at? And I think Tropic Thunder is maybe one of those movies that a lot of people watched that would now be like, oh gosh, I don't know if I could watch that again. Because now I believe a lot of these things are wrong. You can, everybody's entitled to change their feelings and grow and do all those other things. But you also can't burn books. You know,
Yeah.
you can't wipe things out of existence.
Yeah, like that's the thing, is you can't. There's so with the movies that we've shown today and the things that we've said that they probably wouldn't get made today because people are a little bit like, and in no way suggesting that, you know, people are too sensitive or anything like that. That people are more worried about their actions and stuff like that from what they've learned in the past and what is right now, kind of thing. But you can't erase some of the stuff that we've done.
No.
And because it helps us get to the place we are now. You can't erase like Band of Brothers because it shows Nazis and it shows, like, you know, Holocaust camps and stuff like that, because that history hurt us. You know, like, it does it in a very good way to show that, you know, that history existed, and we have to look at that and be just like, we can't do this again. And comedy is essentially another vehicle towards doing that. It's just it's an easier way to do it, because like pointing at something that to us is just wrong and is ludicrously wrong, being able to point at it and laugh at it, as in method actors going too far, you know, which the corporate head who believes that he's bigger than God, Tom Cruise, his character, you know, that kind of level, the insanity that Hollywood goes towards making movies and stuff and pushes people towards kind of things like pressures that actors are on. Like this movie, the Tropic Thunder follows all those kind of things, but without being able to point at it and kind of laugh and kind of realize the differences and stuff, and having the intent in your head while watching it, like, you might as well just, you know, stop making anything. Like,
yeah,
there'd be no point, you know.
And you know, it's because we're going to wrap up in a moment, and I'm going to give the last words to you know, our great commenter, Pop Culture 33. But before I do, Paul, if anybody comes at you or I now because of this, I'll be sad. Not because someone's, you know, gonna get me wiped off the internet or something, but I'll be sad because there is no malintent to what we're talking about. We find everything, and I won't say we, but I think I'm safe enough to know what you agree with. We both hate and genuinely despise intolerance and any representation of racism, etc., etc. That's all terrible. But when it comes to movies, when it comes to art, you need it to be able to do its job of telling stories, of making us feel and think. Sometimes that's going to be uncomfortable, sometimes that's going to be confusing. And that's what this topic is about. It's not about endorsement, and it's not about admonishment on whichever side you think or feel on any of the topics we've brought up today. So everybody please hear that. And Paul, do you want to just do a show of pop culture? Because there's a comment here. Tropic Thunder just got a 4K release, so that's a disc release, and the collectors are buying it up in case you know, they're afraid it's going to get locked away. There you go. So people are already starting to think of this sort of thing. Making fun of blackface is not approving it. There's a difference. And then, you know, talking about blackface in previous movies, which, you know, Ted Danson and many others, there's some awful, awful examples. And they are awful examples when they're awful examples with no good intent, no artistic merit, no anything. There's a huge difference. Am I saying that people should be allowed? Because all you're going to hear now is some person going, oh, they think blackface should be allowed. No, nobody said that. You don't get to take somebody's intent and decide it for them. You know, you can ask us. If anybody's got an issue with anything we've said, ask us why we said it. We'll explain to you what our thoughts were.
Yeah, like this thing is this the satire about Robbie Downey Jr. blackface in this is just the extreme version of whitewashing.
Yeah.
Like Ghost in a Shell. It's set in Japan. It's mostly like it's an anime based on a manga. It's mostly probably should be built by like around like Asian kind of actors and stuff like that. But it was all done by, you know, American white Caucasian white, you know, and we complained about that. This Robbie Downey Jr. portrayal of what's your Kirk Lazarus's character in Tropic Thunder is just the extreme version of that. You know, it's
and it's there to be made fun of, not endorsing it.
Yeah, it's essentially instead of changing the character to be, you know, another race and like it's essentially changing the actor to be that race, which is just ludicrous.
Well, on that note, Paul, I'd like to say we're looking for subscribers, we're looking for views, we're looking for interaction, because we would love, you know, we want the thumbs ups and all that kind of stuff to help us with the algorithm, blah blah blah. But really, be nice to hear from people out there. So any thoughts, get them in the comments down below. No thought is right, no thought is wrong. It's your thought. That's all. So kind of on that note, Paul, if you're happy enough for us to walk out of this one before we go too far, let's see how people who see this view this video react. And I'm looking forward to us being able to do more things like this as people understand who we are more and more. So let's build a community and let's talk this out, folks. Let's talk it out while we're hearing us out.
Yeah,
that got awkward. Ooh.
Comment down below if there's any other movies that you believe wouldn't be made today for any reason and stuff. Which is, we'd love to hear if there's any kind of ones that you believe. We believe comedy would be hit the hardest for anything like this.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But yeah, let us know. And as I said, if you have any issues with the ones that we've said, which is like Life of Brian or Lacey Settles, watch the movies first and comment down below.
Yeah, and you know what? If you really feel like you don't want to watch it and you want to comment, but you have to say why you think what you think without even seeing it. Paul, I just want to say a massive thanks to everybody who comments and everybody who's interacted, and a big special thanks to Pop Culture for joining us and giving so many spot on comments. And we will see you next week with something probably less clickbaity. Sorry about that, folks. We really are starting to try and get some views here, so you have to play the game a little bit. And on that clickbait note, Paul, I have been Patrick.
And I've been Paul.
And we've been Hear Us Out. Please join us again soon, and we will see you on the other side. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.